Welcome to Boys in the Hood TV. Today we're going to be discussing a Fruittown Piru shooter named C.K. Rob, who would shoot multiple people and kill one in 2012. Now, Robert Dawkins, aka Crip Killer Rob, was a known and well-respected member of the Fruittown Pirus. Now, Fruittown is located on the east side of Compton and is one of the most active Piru sets in all of Compton. Now, they have been known to beef with gangs like the Front Hood Crips, Carver Park, and even at one point in time, the Treetop Pirus. But one of their most violent beefs is with the Compton Barrio Tortilla Flats, a Sureño gang, which is located between Willowbrook and Alameda Street. And this beef has been going on since the early 90s, and many of people have lost their lives to this war. Now, C.K. Rob was from the 2500 block of the Fruittown clique. He would be heavily active in both of these wars since getting put on to the hood in his early teen years. Now, his reputation would lead him to having a nickname, Crip Killer Rob. Now, like many homies in the hood, Rob would make his money by selling coke on the streets. But in late 2009, Rob would be arrested for being in possession of a controlled substance. But for the next few months, he would fight his case, and eventually he would take a plea deal, and by spring of 2010, he would be back on the streets. But around 2011, the streets of Compton was still an active war zone between the Pirus and different Vadio sets like the T Flats and Largo 36. Now, things would really start to heat up when a 16-year-old Fruittown Piru member named Davion Brown, aka Gravy, will be shot and killed while walking down Piru Street in broad daylight. Now, his death was allegedly done by the T Flats. Now, as you can imagine, the Fruittown Pirus will be looking for some get back. But the following year, in 2012, C.K. Rob would take a major loss when his homie from Fruits, named Diamond Tuck, would lose his life. Now, this loss would hit C.K. real hard, and from this, Rob would get extremely active in the streets of Compton, sparing no one. On May 8th, 2012, at around noon, Rob would make his way down Piru Street. Now, while driving, he would spot a Cadillac owned by a man named Julius McCoy. Rob would slowly park his car nearby, hop out, armed with a 9mm handgun. He would slowly walk up to the Cadillac where there was 3 people sitting inside, and that's when Rob would up the gun and start shooting at the car. He would let off nearly 5 shots, with one shot hitting the man named Malik Bonner in his face. Afterwards, Rob would hop back into his car and flee the scene. Now, Malik Bonner, who was initially in the passenger seat, would hop into the driver's seat and drive away, but due to losing so much blood, he would eventually crash the Cadillac. Now, EMTs would arrive shortly after and transport Malik to the hospital, where he would eventually recover from his injuries. Now, detectives attempted to question the other passengers in the vehicle, but they would not cooperate. Now, only a few days later, detectives would get a lead that C.K. Rob was the possible shooter. So this would lead to them obtaining a search warrant where they would search his home and discover multiple weapons, including a 9mm, which would match the shell casings found at the scene of that shooting. Now, while this investigation continued over the next few months, Rob would continue living his life, like being seen on social media, riding on ATVs, and smoking weed. He would eventually even start growing his own marijuana himself. But C.K. Rob, even after this shooting, still wasn't finished. He was still on one at this point. He was ready to get some more get back, and this time, his targets were the Tortilla Flats. On September 10th, at around 1 a.m., C.K. Rob would ride down the 400 block of West Magnolia Street. Now, this block was directly in the heart of the T Flat set. As he drove by, he spotted a group of Hispanic men standing outside drinking. Now, a couple of the men were members of the T Flats. One of the men, named Roberto Gasca, stayed at that apartment complex where they all were standing there drinking. The other was Fermin Orozco, Jose Cervantes, and another man by the name of Aragon. Now, eventually, Rob will park his car and get out and make his way towards the apartment complex. Without saying a word, Rob will walk up to the group of men and start blasting. He would let off multiple shots as the men attempted to flee. Now, Orozco would be hit 3 times, and Aragon would be hit 7 times, and Roberto Gasca will be hit 5 times with one fatal shot to his face. Now, as the 3 men laid on the ground, C.K. Rob would hop back into his car and flee the scene. Now, Jose had hid behind the dumpster and would immediately come running out and call 911. Now, once the police and EMTs arrived on the scene, both Aragon and Orozco would be taken to the hospital and treated. But sadly, 29-year-old Roberto Gasca would be pronounced dead at the scene. Now, the surviving victim, Jose, would identify the shooter as a skinny black male between the age of 20 and early 30s. Now, police would obtain the apartment complex's surveillance footage, which would capture the entire shooting on camera. Now, because the area was very well lit, the police would get a very clear shot of the shooter. Now, one detective named Detective Jones would immediately recognize the shooter as C.K. Robb from the Fruitown Pirus. Now, this detective had had multiple run-ins with C.K. Robb over the years. Now, as the police prepared to obtain an arrest warrant for Robb, Robb will continue to post on social media as if nothing had happened, showing off his weed plans. But only months later, on November 1st, police would arrest C.K. Robb on murder and attempted murder charges. He will be charged with first-degree murder and 8 attempted murders, which included the shooting back of May of 2012. Now, at the trial, only 2 victims would show up from the May shootings, but the victims that did show up would give a very lackluster detail of the shooting and did not identify C.K. Robb as that shooter. And because of this, those 5 attempted murder charges would be dismissed. But C.K. Robb would be convicted of unlawful possession of a firearm in connection to that shooting. Now, as for the shooting in September, which took the life of Roberto Gasca, the surviving victim, Jose, would take the stand, and he would identify C.K. Robb as the man who shot and killed Roberto. Now, also the prosecution would play the apartment complex surveillance footage tape for the jury. Now, in return, C.K. Robb's defense attorney would call a surveillance footage expert who would testify that the man in the surveillance footage did not match that of C.K. Robb. But even with his expert opinion, it was not enough to sway the jury. And by the end of the trial, C.K. Robb will be found guilty of first-degree murder and 3 counts of attempted murder. And he will be sentenced to life in prison with a total of 133 years and 8 months. I would like to thank everybody for tapping in, and I'll see y'all next time.